Hello students and welcome to Physical Science. This is the 1A Introduction and Dimensions lesson. Alright, so my name is Mrs. Larkin. I am your teacher for Physical Science. My contact information is right here. You can see my email bfiorellolarkin@k12insightca.org and my phone number here 424-294-8688. You can text or call that number. Please be aware that in my class, for every assignment, you do get 3 attempts, and we'll go over what those assignments are in a few moments. Today is day 1 of the quarter, so you can see our schedule for week 1. Today, we're talking about introduction and dimensions. You do not have any live sessions, hence the reason for this recording. And the assignments that you have due today, you need to complete the 1A notes while watching this recording, as well as complete the extra credit survey for some extra credit. You'll see that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you do have a required class. We'll go over times in a moment. We will be continuing Unit 1, so we'll talk about science, engineering models, graphing, and we will have a lab on Thursday for Unit 1. So that's the 1B notes, 1C notes, and the 1D lab. You will also have attendance checks that you'll need to complete because, again, we do have required class, and I'll go over what those are in a few moments as well. Friday, there is no class. You do have optional support. You'll see you'll also have an optional support session on Wednesday, and we will be starting Unit 2 on Friday. So taking a look at our live session schedule for week number 1. You have an assembly at 9 a.m. on Monday, but there are no science classes on Monday. Instead, our first science class is on Tuesday at 12:30 to 1 o'clock, 30 minutes. It's our first class. It is for all students, last names A through Z. If you find on your calendar, on your Class Connect schedule, that you have a conflict, you need to make sure you contact me right away. Again, contact info is a few minutes ago. So that being said, Wednesday and Thursday we will have a regular schedule starting on that day. So if you are in group 2, which is mostly last names M through Z, you will have class at 8:30. If you are group 1, which is mostly last names A through L, you will have class at 9:30. But just to make sure that you're in the right class, always check your Class Connect schedule just to make sure that you got scheduled in the right one according to any conflicts we might have seen arise. And then again, you do have optional support Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday is at 1 o'clock, Friday is at 8:30. Students that have an F in the class are automatically invited to support sessions. If you're passing though and you still want some help, please just contact me and I can add you to those sessions. All right, so Insight policy is that attendance to live class sessions is required. It's 10% of your entire class grade, so it can make the difference between an A and a B and a C, so on and so forth. It can only be earned if you are actually in attendance at the live class, you're actually logged in, participating, etc., etc. In my class, we have a virtual attendance check that you submit during class in order to earn your points. So you'll see that when we start our first live class tomorrow on Tuesday. So here is Unit 1. Unit 1 is all about matter and energy. So we're going to talk about what is physical science, take a look at the relationship between matter and energy, review scientific methods, and then we're going to use those scientific methods in a lab that we have due on Thursday, and we'll demonstrate our results through graphing. So our objective for today, we want to learn how to be successful in this class. It's really simple. I'll explain it in a few moments. We will use the metric system to describe the 4 fundamental quantities, identify the relationship of derived units to fundamental units, and explain the importance of and how to use significant figures. And again, you're going to demonstrate this by completing the 1A notes. You should get 100% because all of the answers are in class word for word, or are in this recording word for word. So our agenda, we already did our reminders and announcements. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to go over course info, fundamental quantities, derived units, significant figures. I'll talk about the extra credit survey briefly. We'll have a reflection and review, and then you can go ahead and submit your notes, and that'll be your assignment for the day. All right, so first thing we need to do is make sure we have our notes open. All right, if you looked at the announcement, you probably already have it open because you opened it with the recording, or it's also in your grades tab. But if you haven't opened your notes yet, I am going to show you the manual way to get to your notes. So the way that you do that is you go to the Content tab, click Unit 1 from the left side table of contents, scroll down, find the 1A notes, and click Start Quiz. And again, the answers to the notes are provided word for word throughout this lesson, so you don't don't need to come up with any answers. You just need to watch the recording, fill it in. You'll see these little yellow squares that have all the answers. I'll explain that in a moment. So let me go ahead and open your notes with you really quickly. So again, if you are at the class home, you should be able to go to the content tab at the top. Let me zoom in a little bit. Content tab at the top. On the left-hand side, you'll see Unit 1, Matter and Energy from your table of contents. Click on that. And then you can scroll down and find the 1A notes right here. And I will go ahead and show you what this looks like really quickly. So for you, when you click the 1A notes, it'll look like this. And then you can go ahead and click Start Quiz. Okay, it's not actually a quiz, they're just notes, but they are in the quiz format, so you do need to click Start Quiz. And you'll see all the questions are here, and it reminds you every single question, the answer is in this recording that I'm creating, so you do not need to come up with the answers on your own. Just wait, you'll see the answers as we go through the lesson. Okay, so that being said, course breakdown, we want to explain how to be successful in class. So all assignments are completed during live class sessions. So therefore, the easiest way to be successful is just to attend class every day, or days we don't have classes is to watch the recording of what we would have learned in class. Again, attendance is also 10% of your grade. You can't complete any of the attendance checks if you're absent from class, so you have to actually be in class in the virtual class to get your attendance. So here's our grade breakdown here. You can see that labs and reports are worth 60% of your grade, meaning there are 5 lab reports, 5 exams. Together they make up 60% of your grade, and it's impossible to pass without them, because without them, you could only get a 40% in class, which is not a passing grade. So you have to complete them. You have to complete them well. They are the biggest, most important part of the course is to complete the lab reports and exams. The second most important part is to do your notes. The notes are going to have all the answers that you need in order to get 100% on your exam. So we want to make sure that we're doing our notes every day and doing them correctly. Again, attendance is 10% and STAR 360 will also be 10%, which you should have already learned about in the assembly. All right, so let's keep on going here. So quick check for understanding. Take a look at this slide. What is the biggest grade in this course? Pause for a moment. Think about the answer. All right, so the biggest course in this, the biggest grade in this course is going to be labs and exams. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and circle this really quickly, labs and exams. All right, so that's the answer. And you'll notice right here that there's also this yellow box that says notes number 1. And notes number 1 means that I need to go back to my notes document and fill in the correct answer using this recording. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. Oops. So let me go over here. So the biggest grade in the course, we just went over it, is labs and exams. Again, that's worth 60% of your grade. You can't pass without them. All right, so we've got number 1 saved. It says saved right here. So we're going to move on. And again, the answers are going to be here as we go. So let's keep on moving. All right, so the most important tip here is that the grades tab gets updated every day with both your grades and the links to the assignments and the recording. And remember, recordings / classes will have all of the answers and steps to every single assignment. So really, you don't need to bother looking anywhere else in my course. You don't really need to learn how to use all of these other tabs and stuff. The really most important thing is just the grades tab. It's going to be your one-stop shop to everything that you need in order to be successful. And again, our objective here is to learn how to be successful. So let me show you really quickly what that looks like. All right, so if you are in your course right here, when you go to your grades tab, here's what it will look like. The grades tab is right here, and this is what it actually looks like when you click on there. All right, so you'll see the breakdown of all the grades. And then again, since we are doing the 1A notes and the extra credit survey today, you will see the links to those 2 things right here. And when you click on them, they'll open everything up for you. And it's amazing. So make sure that you are using your grades tab. You don't need to go anywhere else in my course. This will help you be very, very successful if you're checking your grades tab every single day. So this is number 2 in your notes as well. So let me go back to that. So number 2 in your notes, the grades tab is updated every day with your grades and links to the assignments and recordings that have all the answers and steps. You don't have to capitalize, but if you prefer, just write it the way that you see it, because that'll make sure that you get your credit. Spelling does matter, so make sure you spell it correctly. Okay, so that is our notes number 2. All right, so what is physical science? Physical science is the study of matter and energy and how they interact. It's the study of the physical world around you. All right, so quarter one, we study physics, and quarter two, we study chemistry. And you can see a list of the units that we will be going over here on the right. So you'll notice that we are starting to learn content on the very first day of class, and that is because we have 10 units and only 10 weeks of the course. So it goes by very quickly, so that's why we are going over some content today. So physical science, again, the study of matter. You should fill in the blank with the word matter for notes number 3. I can show you what that looks like. All right, so here we are for notes number 3, the study of matter and energy and how they interact. Again, all the answers have been in these slides. You'll notice that in order to save your answer, you do need to click outside of the box. Just keep that in mind. All right, so we are going to go ahead and jump into our topic today, which is talking about dimensions. Another way you might think about dimensions is measurements, how to measure things. Okay, so measurements are really important. They show the relationship between matter and energy. So again, unit 1 is all about matter and energy, matter being the stuff around you, energy being how it interacts. And so measurements are going to help us understand those relationships. Okay, so there are two different systems that we'll talk about. The first is the English system, which is the system that most people in the USA use. It is pretty familiar, but it is more difficult to use because it's kind of like random nonsense. All right, so for example, 1 foot in the United States is 12 inches, which is a completely random number. 1 yard is 3 feet, which is also a completely random number. Again, you can see right here, it's kind of random nonsense. The metric system, on the other hand, is what most of the world uses, and the scientific world especially, and it's a little bit easier to use, right? Because it comes in tens basically. So 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters, or 1 meter equals 100 meters. So it all has to do with this 10, 100, 1,000 kind of relationship, which is much, much easier to understand. So this is your fill in the blank for notes number 4. Fill in the blank with the word relationships. Make sure you click outside of the box to save it, and then we're going to keep on going. All right, so again, our objective here is to talk about the metric system, which is what we're going to be using in our science class because that's what the scientific world uses. And the metric system is able to describe 4 fundamental quantities. The word fundamental means basic or like foundational. So the fundamental quantities are the most basic measurements, meaning you can't express them using other quantities. Okay, and we'll talk about ones that you can in a moment. Those are called derived. And these are measured using the metric system in fundamental units. So fundamental quantities, fundamental units. So the fundamental quantities that we're going to talk about are distance, mass, time, and temperature. And the units that we use, meaning that when we have a number for distance, the unit is what we place next to the number to represent that distance, is meters, right? So 3 meters, for example. For mass, it would be grams, so 27 grams. Time is seconds, so for example, 60 seconds. And temperature is Celsius, so for example, 24 degrees Celsius. So these are the units that we'll use when we talk about these 4 different fundamental quantities. This is number 5 in your notes. Fill in the blank with the word metric, and then click out of the box to save your answer. And let's keep on going. All right, so at this point, let's go ahead and match these up, make sure that we understand these relationships. So take a moment to take a look at this screen. You should be able to do this on your own, and then we'll go ahead and check our answer. Give you a few seconds to do that. Pause and do that. All right, so let's go ahead and go over our answers. So distance, again, is measured in the fundamental unit meters. Time is measured in the fundamental unit seconds. Mass is measured in grams, and temperature is measured in degrees Celsius. All right, so you should be able to match those up, and this is actually also the answer to number 6 in your notes. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. All right, so going down to number 6, we already answered number 4 and number 5 in the lesson. But number 6, take a look at this. You'll notice that these are probably in a different order. But again, based on what we just went over, right, time is measured in seconds, so that would be number 4. Temperature is measured in degrees Celsius, that would be number 1. Distance is measured in meters, that's number 3 for me. And mass is measured in grams, which is number 2 for me. Now again, yours will probably be in a different order because they are randomized, so do not copy this. Make sure that you read yours carefully. Otherwise, you will lose credit. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and dig deeper into what these fundamental quantities are. So distance is measured in meters. Distance is the length between A to B. All right, 1 meter is approximately 1 yard long, or about 3 feet long. It's a little bit over that actually. So if you see a meter stick and a yard stick, they're very similar in size, but a meter stick is a little bit bigger. Small distances we can measure in millimeters and centimeters. So for example, if you're measuring something very small, like a paper clip, you might use centimeters, for example. Large distances are measured in kilometers. So for example, if you've ever heard of a 10K race, running race, that's actually 6.2 miles. So 10K would be the way that we would represent that in the metric system. And again, these are easy to convert because the metric system is easy to convert. 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. Again, you can see that kind of 1 to 10 to 100 to 1,000 relationship. All right, moving on to our next one. All right, so time is probably pretty familiar to you. Time is actually the one system that's similar between both metric and English. So time is measured in seconds, and 1 second is about the time it takes for your heart to beat. So it's about the same as 1 heartbeat. 1 minute is made up of 60 seconds, 1 hour is made up of 60 minutes, and 1 day is made up of 24 hours. That should be pretty familiar, hopefully, because this is actually the same as the English system. Now, mass is measured in grams. So mass is similar to weight. It's kind of the amount of stuff that an object is made up of. So for example, if you've ever used a food scale, you might have measured things in grams, like this apple right here. It is not exactly the same as weight, and as we go throughout class, we'll explain the difference between mass and weight, but for now, it's okay to consider those things to be the same thing. Okay, so mass is measured in grams. For example, a paper clip weighs about 1 gram. You can see this apple here weighs about 73.5 grams. A human, 120-pound human, weighs 54,400 grams. And again, we could convert that because for every 1,000 grams, that equals 1 kilogram. So we could actually call that 54 kilograms. So you can see it's very, very easy to convert between the two. And the last fundamental quantity that we want to dig into is temperature. So temperature is measured in degrees Celsius, right? So in the US, we use Fahrenheit, but in the rest of the world, they use degrees Celsius. So the reason this is important is because temperature, degree Celsius scale is based on water. So at 0 degrees Celsius, that is actually when water freezes. And at 100 degrees Celsius, that is when water boils. So it's pretty scientific. It lines up with water, boiling, and freezing. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about matching these up here. Okay, so we have 1 meter, 1 second, 1 gram, 0 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Celsius, and what they are approximately represented by. So go ahead, pause the video, take a moment to look at those on your own, and then play, and we will match them up together. All right, so let's go ahead and match these up. 1 meter is a little over 1 yard. Remember, we talked about meter sticks versus yard sticks, or approximately 3 feet. 1 second is the length it takes for your heart to beat once, so about 1 heartbeat. And 1 gram is the mass of approximately 1 paperclip. Okay. 0 degrees Celsius, remember that's the cold temperature, so that is when water actually freezes. And 100 degrees Celsius, that is when water actually boils. So at this point, go ahead, pause the video, use these answers in order to fill out number 7 in your notes. I've shown you how to do a matching activity at this point, so you should be able to do that on your own. Remember, click out of it in order to save all of your answers, and then we will keep on going. All right, so the next thing that we need to talk about is derived units. So we're going to take a look at the relationship of derived units to fundamental units. So we've been talking about the 4 fundamental units: length, mass, distance, and time. And again, those are the most basic units. We can't express them using any other units. Derived units, on the other hand, are actually combinations of fundamental units. So you could express them using other types of units. So for example, volume is a derived unit. Okay, and volume measures the space of a liquid or an object using cubic centimeters. Okay, now the way that we derive volume is by multiplying length by length by length. Or, for example, if you had a 1 centimeter cube, that would be 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, which would equal 1 cubic centimeter. This right here is how we represent the word cubic centimeters. So again, this is actually a combination of other types of units. It's a combination of distance units, centimeters, 3 different times, okay? So that's why this is a derived unit, because we can actually represent volume using distance 3 times. We can also say 1 centimeter cubed, or 1 cubic centimeter is the same as a milliliter. So oftentimes in science, we'll either say cubic centimeters or milliliter. They're the same unit, just kind of represented a little bit differently. Now, liters you should actually be pretty familiar with. So for example, a 2-liter bottle of Coke is the same as 2,000 milliliters. Again, super easy to convert, 2,000 milliliters, or we could also again say 2,000 cubic centimeters. And for something that might be a little bit easier to represent, a teaspoon, all right, which you can see right here, a teaspoon is approximately 5 milliliters, so a much smaller amount of milliliters as opposed to 2,000. All right, so this is number 8 in your notes. Go ahead and fill in the blank with the word derived, and then click out of the box to save your answer. Pause the video, and when you're ready, continue playing. All right, the last thing that we need to talk about is the importance of and how to use what are called significant figures. So significant figures are important in science class, especially when it comes to labs, because when you're measuring things, either with beakers or with rulers, or when you're using any type of measuring, you can't describe the measurement in more detail than the accuracy of the tool. Okay, so what that means is if you have a tool that only has a inches on it, okay, or only, let's talk about centimeters. If you have a tool that only has centimeters on it, you're not going to be able to measure things in perfect accuracy to the millimeter, because a millimeter is smaller. Same thing with like if you have a ruler that only has a foot on it, it'd be really hard to understand how many inches it is because the tool is not very accurate. So we have to do things according to the accuracy of the tool. So when we measure things with the tool, we can include the known digits, meaning the amounts we absolutely know based on the tool, as well as we can estimate 1 extra digit. So significant figures always includes the known digits and 1 estimated digit. So for example, if you take a look at this centimeter ruler, the known digits we know right now are 1. So I would write that this is 1. And I can actually add a little bit more because I can estimate 1 digit, right? So this would be maybe 3. So I would estimate this as 1.3 centimeters. Okay. Now down here though, this one is a much more accurate tool. So here I can measure that this is 1, 0.2, because we have 2 tiny dashes here, so 0.2. And then we can estimate here, it's a little bit past halfway, so I would say maybe a 6. So this would be 1.26 centimeters. Okay, so again, we can get more and more accurate the closer that, the more detail that the tool has. So we can have all the known digits plus 1 estimated. The word estimated is your fill in the blank for number 9. Go ahead, pause the video, type that in, spell it correctly, click out of the box to save your answer, and then keep on playing. All right, so last thing that we need to do is just to make sure we understand this. So using significant figures, take a look at this. What would be the best measurement of the red paperclip using the ruler provided? Okay, so this ruler is not super detailed. The only digits we have here are for the centimeters. So we're going to use the digits for centimeters and then say point and make 1 estimated digit here. So here I know that the measurement for sure starts with 2. So 2 centimeters, that's my known digits, point. Then I'm going to go ahead and estimate here. So this is like maybe 3 or 4 here past 0.3 or 0.4 past here. So I would say maybe 2.3. And take a look at that. Here's our answer right here. 2.3 centimeters would be an accurate significant figures measurement of this paperclip, because I have a known digit here. So this one's known, and this one right here is estimated. So known and estimated. Awesome, so that's number 10 in your notes. Make sure that you select that as your correct answer. Remember, they are randomized in your notes, so make sure that you read them carefully. You want to choose the one that says 2.3, not the one that just says C, because again, it might be in a different order. All right, so save that, and then let's keep on going. All right, so at this point, we've actually finished our notes, so I'll talk about how to submit those in a few moments. But you should make sure that you actually also do the extra credit welcome survey today. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with you really quickly, just so that you can look at what that looks like. All right. So if you want at this point, you can go ahead and click Submit Quiz, and then you will need to make sure that you click Submit one more time. It always asks you, are you sure you want to submit? So keep on submitting until it is completely submitted. So for the welcome survey, you can do the same thing that we did last time. We're going to go to Content, and then scroll down to Unit 1 on the left. And then scroll down and you should be able to find the extra credit survey right here. Again, it is in the quiz format, so as soon as you click on it, it's going to ask you to start the quiz. So you can click Start Quiz and that will open up your survey. So for your survey, there are some things here that I would like to know. So the name that you prefer to go by, you can just fill in I prefer to be called. So for example, I prefer to be called Mrs. Larkin. Which people in your life are your biggest motivators to do well in life and school, and why? All right, so you might say, for example, the people who motivate me most are, for example, my husband, because he always challenges me to get things done on time and put in my best effort. Okay. What do you enjoy doing during your free time? So for example, during my free time, I enjoy doing Krav Maga, which is a type of martial arts. I enjoy knitting / crocheting. I enjoy binge watching TV shows. I enjoy playing with my daughter. Cooking, etc., etc. All right, so you can tell me, what do you enjoy doing during your free time? What pets do you have, and or what is your favorite animal? So I don't have any pets. So the pets I have don't have any because my husband's allergic to everything. But my favorite animal, for example, would be penguins because they're super cute and funny. My favorite food. So what is your favorite food? My favorite food would probably be deep dish pizza because I'm from Chicago. Yay. So go ahead, tell me what your favorite food is. Tell me something else about yourself. It could be something important, silly, or something that you think I should know. You do need to put something though, so don't put IDK or there's nothing else or I don't know. Make sure you actually write a response. So something else about myself is, let's see here, I am adopted. So I am adopted. I'm Korean, but my parents are white. Okay. And then type the best number and an email to reach you at. So for example, remember my best phone number is 424-294-8688. You can text or call it. My best email is bfiorello.larkin@k12insightca.org. And then which way do you prefer to be contacted? So my preferred way to be contacted is to text me. So if you can text me at this number, that's the best way to contact me. And then you'll just submit that. And again, remember when you do submit, it always asks you to submit again. So always confirm that you do actually want to submit. Otherwise, I will not get your response. Okay, and then you are done with this. So super easy, and it's good for some extra credit as well, which is awesome. Okay, so at this point, we talked about how to be successful. We talked about the metric system and the 4 fundamental quantities. We talked about how we get derived units from fundamental units and how to use significant figures and why they are important. Again, at this point, you should have completed your 1A notes. So what I want you to do is just really quickly think to yourself, how would you rate your understanding of today's objectives? So you want to think to yourself, am I still very confused? Do I still need some help? Am I pretty good? Do I feel awesome about these objectives? If you're on this side, very confused or still need some help, make sure you come to a support session on Wednesday or Friday. Again, if you are passing, you can always email me or text me or call me to let me know that you'd like to be invited to those support sessions. And then review, go ahead, think to yourself, what's one new thing that you learned today, or what's one thing that you found helpful to review today, and make sure you write that down or you kind of talk aloud to yourself just to make sure you're kind of cementing that information in your brain today. All right, so at this point, make sure that you submit your completed 1A notes. Again, make sure you keep on clicking submit until it is fully submitted. And thanks so much, everyone. That is all for today.